Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, rockers of all ages, we put out the call. Victoria answered. Coming to you from Melbourne, Victoria, is the lead singer of the Gothic metal band Victoria K. Her name is Victoria Knight, and she graciously accepted the invitation to join Aussieverse and talk about her rise in the music scene. With their initial album, Essentia, and now their second music masterpiece, Core, may I present to you, sure to be one of the highlights of Australian music culture, Victoria K. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm like really excited. I really appreciate like being able to talk with all of you and talk about music.
Good on you. Absolutely fantastic. We all discovered you the first time when we went to the curtain and we saw you guys play. And we were there for another band and we saw you after them. That was Anna. And I've got to tell you, man, like you really blew us away. It was an absolutely fantastic performance, and we're grateful to have found you. So thank you for coming on Aussieverse.
Oh, well, thank you for coming to the show. Like that was probably one of my favorite shows that we've played in a while. So I'm glad you came to that one. That was a very good one to come to. Yeah. Well,
that was awesome. We loved it.
Oh, thank you so much.
It was awesome. Excuse me.
So we've got a few questions here, but we'll try to make it, some chill and not, make it too formal. But I guess the first thing I'd like to ask, because I've been doing a bit of a deep dive on yourself, obviously preparing for this interview, and not even preparing, but just because I genuinely dig your music. Your musical background, what can you tell us about that? Because I know that you're quite young as well, and if this is what the level you're already performing at your age, I can't imagine what's coming out in the future. So I want to talk a bit about your past and where you came from, you professionally or self-taught or all of that sort of jazz.
Yeah, well, I recently turned 20, which is really cool. I made it to my 20s. But
what's 20?
Steve forgot.
I've forgotten twice and more.
No! Well, my musical background is quite diverse, I would say. I started getting lessons when I was like 5 or 6 years old. I was one of those kids singing, acting, and dancing. I did a lot of theatre as a kid growing up. I still love theatre. Everyone's going to know that now, so it's like, it's out in the oven. But, yeah, I started with that, and then I sang a bit of jazz when I was getting a bit older. And I think I found metal when I was like 9. Because mum was like a goth growing up. She was a metalhead, and she's like, listen to this. It was Evanescence, of course. And that's kind of like I went down the rabbit hole that way. And then I found bands like Within Temptation and Nightwish and Amaranth, and like those are probably those bands are like my favorite bands like since childhood. Still are probably my favorite bands now, which is great. And that's where that kind of started, and I started like wanting to like sing heavier songs, and from about like the age of 9. And then like later on when I was like 13, I started training as a classical singer.
Oh wow.
So a lot of my technical training has come from like learning piano, learning viola, learning like classical singing. I actually just performed in an opera, so I still do that. Yeah. Wow. I still like work as an opera singer. I'm studying opera at the moment right now as well as doing this. So yeah, I think my classical training has has influenced the sound of my band a lot. Especially in the first 2 albums, there's another one coming, but like the first the albums that I have out currently, especially the first one has a lot of like Western classical influences. Oh, there's Quarter. And that one still has classical influence, but that one has a lot of Greek music influences because I'm Greek. I grew up singing Greek music as well. So I'm kind of just like a mash of all these things, and I'm like, I like metal. So I put it all into metal, and that's kind of how my band and my sound formed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
I've always dug metal myself, but I've been with Claudia now for about 5 years, and she's introduced me to so many bands that I'm almost embarrassed to say I don't know how I never knew they existed. And yeah, man, she's just in this whole world of metal is just so freaking awesome, man. And a lot of the way that you just described with your mother sounds very similar to Claudia.
I love that. Yeah. Well, it's so huge. Like, there's so many avenues to explore. There's so much room for experimentation, which is what I really love. Like, there's symphonic metal, but then within symphonic metal, there's like other subgenres, and then there's metalcore, but then there's other subgenres within that. So I think it gives me a lot of room to like move my sound around as much as I kind of want to, that's why I really like metal. I also love metal for the musicianship and for the artistry. And I think I just like music that hits hard. Like really intense and dark. Always like I was drawn to it. So that's kind of where that came from.
And Victoria, you've just been talking about some of your favourite bands, like your Evanescences and your Nightwishes and bands like that. Who do you think, like, if you could sort of name one singer that really sort of captures, you know, everything that you like about that symphonic metal genre, and one that really appeals to you, who would it be?
Oh, that's so hard. There's so many.
That's a hard question.
It's a tough question. Floor Jansen or Tarja Tyrannin?
Yep.
Yeah. I think I might lean towards Tarja a bit more because I am a classical singer and I kind of have that relationship with her. Like musical relationship. But there's just so many amazing singers out there. I love Tommy Karavik from Camelot as well. He's got just like this gorgeous voice. Oh, good. He's got this gorgeous voice as well. So like, but I think, yeah, my ultimate favorite singers from the genre would be like, Floor Jansen or Tarja Tyrannin. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, both excellent vocalists. And obviously between the two of them, in Nightwish, they had Anna Olsen as well. I've got to say that I've been listening to Nightwish for many, many years, and that's actually my favourite singer out of the three of them.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So when I do my 5 minutes of metal, little short videos, I'm actually going to do The Poet and the Pendulum. It's one of my favourite albums. I think she's an amazing singer, but she's very, very different to the other two, and that's what I think really appeals to me about Annette as well. And she's got great range too. If you hear her live, she can hold those notes like Tarja does, and Floor does as well. She's very, very good singer.
I think she's very like looked over. I don't know why, because you have like Tarja, who's just like operatic powerhouse, and you have Floor, who's just like do absolutely everything, and then there's Annette in the middle. I think Annette needs more. We need more hype for Annette. I do love.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, and Imaginarium was probably my favorite Nightwish album growing up. Well, that whole record was my favorite. Yeah.
Do you guys know there's actually a movie? There's an Imaginarium movie.
I've got the movie.
Which Nightwish did the soundtrack for.
I've got the movie. It was my favorite.
It's pretty cool.
Like,
it's pretty cool. I was like
16, and that was my all-time favorite album. I was a huge fan. Huge fan. Like insane. So yeah, the movie's great too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does say, I have read your description of music, but for people that don't know, we are going to show off your website and your YouTube and things like that. But how would you describe your music for people that don't know Victoria Kay?
That's so hard. People ask me,
I'm not asking any easy questions. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, no, because like, it's like I feel like it's definitely Gothic. It's definitely got a lot of symphonic elements. We've been described to have some prog elements in there, especially in the second album with our 8-minute long songs. And there's a lot of symphonic prog elements in there. I think there's like some. I wouldn't say we're extremely heavy, even though we have the extreme vocals. I think our music is quite. It's hard to explain. I wouldn't say like feminine, but it's quite sweet. It's got a lot of sweetness in there. But yeah, it's definitely got a lot of Gothic influences, and some of the music as well, like especially on the second album, has a lot of like Eastern European influence in there as well. So just to throw that in there. But it's really strange. We played 2 shows at the start of the year, like back to back, one with Blind Guardian and one with Katatonia. And we seemed to fit with both of the audiences. So like Our music could be anything, but I would lean towards more of the symphonic Gothic prog thing, but like pop influence in there as well. Yeah, it's very, very like big explanation, but that's what it is.
So I forgot you guys played at Blind Guardian as well, because I saw them too, and I remember you guys now.
Oh, really?
Did you like it? No, I loved it. Really, really good. The whole show was great. I mean, you guys opened up beautifully for them. I think Elm Street opened for them as well.
Yeah,
Elm Street one of the other bands on the bill? Yeah.
Elm Street was the day before us because there were 2 Melbourne shows.
Ah, they were. Okay.
Yeah.
So we opened. I'm old. I'm getting confused easily.
No, never. Yeah. So we did that with Valhalla, and Blind Guardian, obviously. But yeah. So we seem to fit both of those bills, which is really cool, I guess. So I think music can cross over a few different genres.
Fantastic. So who's your favourite musical bands? I mean, I know you said that you grew up with, so it might be the same answer, but as you grow up, your musical tastes do change. You find new bands. Who's your favourite musical bands?
Oh, that's so hard. Well, like right now, I love Lorna Shore. Like I love deathcore. I love like Thy Art Is Murder. I also really like Sleep Token. I have a really, really strong love for Sleep Token. Yeah, I'm glad that's so good. I love Sleep Token. I love Spirit Box. I love all those like mainstream metal bands. But yeah, one of my favorites at the moment has to be Lorna Shore for the past few years. Yeah. So like I love the deathcore stuff. Even though you can't hear it in my music, I do love it.
So with that, what I wanted to ask, I was really impressed, not apart from the actual band itself, how many covers you have done from Evanescence to Nightwish, from Delane to even Paramore, which when you think about it, they're very different types of singers and styles. So talking about favorite bands and songs and all that, is there a specific cover that you've mostly enjoyed?
Wow.
In that
I've been doing covers since I was like some of those covers that are up there. I think Last Ride of the Day I was 14 when I did that, the Nightwish one.
Yeah, we found that.
You seemed very young.
We did the maths and we're like, we actually said it today. We're like, is she 14? And we're like, is sure? Yeah.
Well, that was the same year that I released, or maybe it was the year after I released my first single, Lacuna. So everything kind of like happened simultaneously, which is really cool. But and then I did like the short covers about a year ago. I think that was a year ago. I think my favorite one was Swimming Home by Evanescence. I did that one last year. It's a lesser known Evanescence song because it's like there's no band in it at all. It's just like this kind of synth soundscapey thing. But I love that type of music as well. So I love like experimenting with harmonies and doing things like that. And I do love singing like really soft stuff. And I do love belting, but I like singing really, really soft music as well where I can milk the sound. I feel like there's a different artistry in that. And that one I really liked because I got to experiment with harmonies. And I think it's just a beautifully like arranged song. So that was probably my favorite one that I've done.
Yeah, she would say that it seems like you have a lot of versatility within your vocals, it seems, with everything that we've seen at least. So,
thank you. Yeah. I just can't scream. So I just can't scream.
If I may, I put some highlights down that I thought personally were just amazing. And that was your version of Starlight by Delane. Your Lost in Paradise by Evanescence. And your Phantom of the Opera. That was amazing as well. And last but not least, my favourite things by Roger Hammerstein. That was just those songs are just amazing. I couldn't believe the vocal talent that you had with those. They were amazing.
Thank you. We'll start. Like, the Delane one was really cool to work with because we got the contact to work with that composer, and he had already composed the music. And he's like, "Hey, can you chuck some vocals on this?" And I was like, "Yes, for sure," because I loved his arrangement of it. Favorite things was so interesting. I still work with the same producer that we've been working with all this time. I was with our producer and he was like, "You should do a cover of this song." And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't match the vibe. And he's like, no, it's like, hey, we're gonna make it match the vibe. So then we did this arrangement for it with like at the time a lot of influence from like Marilyn Manson, and like Lord of the Lost. Like we wanted to make something like super, super goth. And then I did my gothic drag makeup. And went up there and I sang. But that was really fun to do. And people like still listen to that now. And I had no idea people still listen to that. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but it was a very, very long time ago. But I'm still proud of it. Still very proud of it. So thank you for like bringing it up. I really appreciate that. No one's spoken about that in ages. So
oh wow! Any metal version of any song that I ever like is just always better, in my opinion. I just love that.
For me, I think it was more of a short, and I think it because that song is very meaningful to me as well. Was Nemo by Nightwish. When you did that short, it gave me goosebumps, and I'm not saying it because I'm here on YouTube. Like I literally had goosebumps, and it was basically the same feeling that we had when we saw you live just a few weeks ago when you did the cover of Frozen. I was like, because it's my favorite Madonna song as well, and I'm like, oh my god, my Madonna and Gothic dreams just came true. It's just absolutely beautiful, the cover that you did with that. It's just immaculate.
Oh, I really appreciate that you like it. That's our most recent single. That was really fun to arrange. I did that one with my drummer. He wrote all of his bits and I wrote all of the other stuff. But that's my favorite Madonna song as well. And the way that kind of came about, I was on tour. Like it was on, I think my first tour, the Essentia tour. And it was actually Mum that messaged me while I was on tour. She's like, hey, you should do this song as a cover. And then I just put it off for a really long time because I didn't have time because I was, working on the next album and things like that. And then like we brought it back and I had already done an arrangement for it. And I was like, oh, this could like do really well. And so we did it and we released it. But I think the song at its core is like, it's a beautifully written song. I think it's like really, really, really well written. And I really wanted to pay respects to that. So I'm glad that that translated. I'm glad that we kept the essence of the song there. That was the whole challenge. Whenever like rearranging music and doing covers, that's the biggest challenge. You want to keep the essence of the song and you want to keep pay respects to the artist and the original writers. So yeah, that's what we focused a lot on. But I'm really, really glad that you enjoyed it live. That really means a lot.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah,
I remember
it sounded amazing live.
Yeah,
I
remember when you presented it. We just heard a few of your other songs, and we didn't know you, right? We didn't know you from anything, right? And we've listened to a few of your songs, and we're like, man, this band really freaking rocks, man. And then you've turned around and you've gone, who likes Madonna? And I'm like, where's this going? and your stage presence completely changed from I don't even know how to describe it properly, but you've got the lead singer presence, and then all of a sudden there was even the more real you, which is just like, who likes Madonna? And everyone's like, yeah. And then you've gone, I like Madonna. So here we go with Frozen. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening here? And as people know, the intro to that song is just, and it's very, very similar. And then all of a sudden, it was, yeah. Fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've always as a front person, I've always tried to work out what I want to be on stage, because Victoria K is very much, I wouldn't say it's a character. It's more like a persona. As every performer knows that they have to do this. You have to put on a character on stage. So I remember I was up there and I was like, oh, I think I broke character. It's oh no, okay. But I just no, it was just such a great gig. The energy was great. I was like, oh, it's okay if I break character, it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, that's something that I'm always trying to experiment with. So that's interesting that you said you're like, oh, I saw the real person, and I was like, it's because it was. So yeah, but yeah, again, I'm really glad that you guys like the cover and it really translated, which is what we really wanted. And we know that metalheads like Madonna because everyone likes Madonna. So I was so fun to do live. And yeah, it's really interesting as well because the guys in my band, they're not all metalheads, and I've kind of like pulled them in, like, hey, come play with us. So they really like doing that song as well because it's kind of like a cross between their two worlds.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
I would not have picked that.
Really?
So Victoria, talking about the band, tell us a little bit more about the band. Like, how did you guys meet? Where did you form? All that sort of stuff, and a bit about the guys in the band as well and their backgrounds.
Yeah, well, we've had a few iterations of the band. Like people that have been following us for a while know that. Our first group kind of formed in 2019 because I got, I got the offer to play a show with Elvide, which I loved Elvide at the time, so I was like freaking out. And I was like, I need to find a band. So we found our drummer is the only one that's been with us from the very start, James Davies. And he's got a very similar background to me. Like he studied music at uni. He's the guy that plays on all the major theatre shows around Melbourne. So he's playing on Beauty and the Beast right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did Moulin Rouge when it was here. He did Groundhog Day. He did Hamilton. So he's that guy. So he's got that going. That's his full-time job. He's a full-time musician, which is great. And he also plays in like he's going to kill me if I get this like description wrong. It's like a neo-funk African band. So he does that too. And then like the people in the band now, we've got Aiden Young and Ethan Calusi. So Aiden plays guitar, Ethan plays bass. And I met them through a session drummer that we had for one of our shows. And they both went to uni together. So they kind of like came in together. And they're both pop musicians. So like Aiden, he's a full-time guitarist. That's his job. He does a lot of session work. He has his own band called No Questions, which is like an experimental guitar thing, which is really cool. And Ethan's kind of more of a jazz pop musician as well. Like he does a very similar thing to Aiden where he's a session musician. He also plays in a grunge band called Shakespeare. So we've all got our own other projects going on as well, which is, I love that. I'm so glad that I have all this other influence coming in to the project, because if it was like a bunch of other people that listen to symphonic metal, my music would not have as much, it wouldn't be as rounded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that
and
makes
then
sense.
Charlie was so interesting when we found Charlie, our extreme vocalist. We were looking for an extreme vocalist at the time. We previously worked with Sherry Vengeance, who was originally from Neo Obliviscaris. And it just like when COVID hit, it got really difficult because she was in Sydney and we were in Melbourne. It just didn't work. And we found Charlie through our sound engineer, who put out an open call to everyone at his university saying, hey, does anyone scream? Because we need a screamer. And then Charlie was like, I scream. And he had no idea that Charlie was an extreme vocalist. Like he came out of nowhere. And he also does throat singing in the band too, which is really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of the droney stuff that you hear in Corday, that's him throat singing. It's really, really sick. Yeah. So that's how we found him, and he just kind of stuck around. And I think that they all play a really important part in like the look and the live sound of the band. So yeah, I love how they all have different influences. Charlie's a metalhead, obviously. And the others, like, they listen to metal, and I'm kind of introducing them to more metal, but like I kind of pulled them into this thing, and they're really loving it. And I'm loving that they're loving it, because it's a genre that they never got the opportunity, I think, to perform in before. And they all like Aiden loves Meshuggah, and Ginger, and Ethan loves prog. Our drummer loves prog as well. So like, I'm glad that, you know, I'm kind of like we're all of these different worlds are colliding into this one project. It's really rewarding.
That's pretty cool, and it brings different influences from different genres, which is something that a lot of standard sort of metal bands don't actually do.
Yeah, I think it's really rewarding. I write all the music myself, but they show me different bands all the time, and we listen to different types of artists, which then influence my music. So they do influence the sound a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you actually write your own music? Because you've come from obviously doing covers, which I guess is a lot of the way people start when they're young, you know, put themselves on YouTube and things like that. And now you've got masterpieces like Matrix and Persephone and Lacuna being your first one. I found these individually just beautiful because, like, being able to create, I said this to Anna as well, being able to create a song in your head is one thing. But being able to take that home, put that on paper, and then be able to create what is actually in your head, or for that to actually be changed into whatever the final outcome is. What's your musical process there? How do you write your own music?
Well, it's so strange because it changes so much depending on what I'm writing. If we take Essentia, for example, those were all like songs that I wrote in my early teenage years and preteen years. That was just a collection of music. And we're like, let's put out an album, see what happens. But because I was trained on piano, I wrote everything on piano. So I put down like melodies and chord charts to get that. And with Essentia, I worked very, very closely with our producer to get like to arrange the rest of the band. I was very, very, like, I was 13, 14 at the time. So like I didn't have as much experience at arranging as I did in writing music. But writing music is something I always did. I just always wrote lyrics and melodies. I don't know. It kind of just came naturally at that age. And then with Corre, it was a bit different because it's a concept record. So I went in and had a very specific process for that. So I went in, I wrote all the songs on piano. I always start with piano when I'm finishing a song because I want to get the essence of the song correct. Something that me and my producer always say is that if it sounds good on piano, it's a good song. You don't need all the other stuff to make it a good song. So we want to get the song right before we put the arrangement to it, because the arrangement only enhances it. That's what we think anyway.
Yeah.
And so I went and I wrote it all on piano, and then I approached it like one massive track, one huge song, like an hour and a half long song. And I went and I composed all the bits individually. So I wrote all the music on that one. And then my producer came in. He's a classical composer as well. So he came in and added some orchestra bits there, which was really cool. But yeah, Corre was more of a process. We worked with a lot of different people outside of the band and the project. I worked with a translator to translate into ancient Greek. I studied a lot of texts. I studied the original ancient Greek text. I studied a lot of poetry, a lot of ancient Greek music and instrumentation. I met a guy when I was in Greece a few years ago who lived in a castle. I met him in a castle, and he makes ancient instruments. So I contacted him again, and he helped out a lot with like what instruments to use, what modes, what rhythms. And they're all kind of subtly placed in there because I wanted to make that really authentic. So that was a longer process. I just finished a set of songs now that I sent off to go get recorded, which is really exciting. Literally a day ago. And that was a different process again. So that was a process more similar to my original process where I would write on piano and then arrange the songs around that. But I do all the arrangements myself now. And hopefully, you know, I want the guys in the band when they record to like put their own energy into it. But like, yeah, I arrange them myself, and then we write out chord charts and we send them out and they record. And that's kind of how it all kind of comes together. It's very methodical, like all the production process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I just realized after the way you've pronounced it, I've mispronounced your album.
I didn't realize everyone mispronounces it. It's okay. It's a Greek word. So it's all good. It's all good. I was actually talking about that the other day. I'm like, everyone pronounces it as core. Okay. No, so Corre is the original name of Persephone before she goes to the underworld. So that's why we named it that. So Corre means daughter in ancient Greek, and then that whole album explores like identity and what it means to be a woman and to have her own identity, not just to be a daughter. and not just to be like not just to be an object, but to be her own person. So that's why I called it Kore, because that's who she was before she became Persephone. And I wanted to explore that journey from like, it's like a coming of age story. Yeah.
Beautiful. So let's see here, has the road you've taken so far been something you'd look back on fondly, or has there been a lot of I wish I avoided that and I wish I knew better, or has it all been learning processes and curves? How would you look back on your past, I guess? And I don't know, that might be a little hard at your age as well, because there's so much more future to come. But is there anything that you look back on and go, yeah, I wish I knew better, or that's a negative experience, or you haven't had any, and maybe everything's just been a part of that learning curve that's been great?
That's a really good question. There's been things that have happened that have been like, oh, that's not fun. But what I've found in my whole process, I've like, the way I talk about my experience in the music industry, it's been very unnatural. I kind of, as soon as I released my first album, I kind of got shot into this like industry where like people wanted to work with me, and I got to do these massive shows. That doesn't normally happen. So that's why I say the start was a little bit unnatural, only because I had all that stuff from YouTube before, which then instantly shot me into this like really, really strong trajectory at the start, and then it kind of slowed down a bit, which happens, and then it kind of shoots again, and you know, it constantly changes, and everyone's journey is different. I just want to say that. So everything that I've found that has happened, everyone that I've worked with, even the things that didn't work out, there's been a lot of things that I've done. Like I traveled to Greece for my music and then came back, and nothing really came of that. But it did, because we met the people in Greece who helped with the second album. So even if you don't realize it at the time, everything influenced everything else. There were these two people that I worked with ages ago before my first album was released, and I'm not going to, you know, mention who they are just for, you know, privacy. And we had some agreements, we had some things that, you know, some shows that we were going to put on, some just a few opportunities there, which kind of fell through. But the one thing that they had, they're like, you need an album. So if it wasn't for that fell through, which was like a really, really bad deal at the time, the first album wouldn't have gotten made. And then I wouldn't have done that show with Elvide. And then it's like everything influenced everything else. And I think everything happens for a reason. So yeah, I wouldn't look back and say that anything is bad. I just think everything has a consequence, and the consequence so far has been pushing everything in the right direction.
It's a good answer.
Thank you.
We've got some amazing metal talent here in Australia. A lot of people don't realise just how big the metal community is and how long it's been around for. Obviously, that includes yourself. Is there any particular bands that you would like to not just, you know, open for or share a stage with, but to actually work with and write together and produce some, you know, some awesome music?
Like Australian bands?
Australian local metal bands, yeah.
There are so many good ones. And I know a lot of them just from doing like being in the scene and gigging. Everyone kind of knows each other. And it's like, I've found that I've connected with all these people. And I'm like, oh, great. There's a lot of really cool bands. One of my really good friends, he plays in a deathcore band named Body Prison, who are doing really well at the moment. They're kind of like shooting up. They're great. Relica, I don't know if you guys have heard of Relica.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're doing really, really well right now. They just got signed to Napalm, and they're killing it.
Oh wow.
So, yeah. Sorry, not Napalm, Nuclear Blast. They just got signed to Nuclear Blast. So they're doing really well. I'd love to work with them. Yeah, still huge. I'd love to work with them. They're kind of like a prog metalcore thing. There have been some great bands that I've like done shows with, like bands like Valhalla. I've always loved Valhalla. And I had a name and I forgot the name. But like bands like I know they're a bigger metal band, but like Make Them Suffer. I would love to do something with Make Them Suffer. I know they're a really massive name, but like I love Make Them Suffer. But yeah, as for smaller bands like Body Prison, another band called Atlas, which is like a metalcore band from Melbourne, like love. So in Melbourne there's a lot of metalcore happening. And they're all great. So yeah, any of those bands would be really, really cool to work with.
So
and obviously during
Steve.
You're right. So 2019, you sort of started forming. I mean, that must have been really, really hard when we were all coming to COVID. And for those of you who might be watching from overseas, we had extreme lockdowns. We had curfews where we weren't allowed out of the house after 8 p.m. at night, and you weren't allowed to travel more than 5 kilometres, which is only a couple of miles. So how did you cope during that time when you're just sort of really starting to get things moving?
Yeah, well, that was really, because we didn't see that coming. No one saw that coming. And it was really devastating, the effects of that, I think, on like everybody. Like people lost their jobs, and I really feel for everybody, you know, that was affected by COVID. We just done the show with Alvardi and just released our album, and we couldn't tour it, and that was the biggest thing for us. We were like, we can't even tour our album that we just released. Like that would have changed everything. And when we look at the band as a whole and our journey as a band, it's almost like we say that we kind of skipped 2 years, because we did. We skipped 2 years. But what I did during COVID is I wrote the second album and I did the concept record. And the one good thing that COVID gave me was time. It gave me time to really, really, really like focus in on it really intensely and really dive in, and get into a lot of detail there, which I really enjoyed. I spent a longer time writing that one just because I wanted to be like really accurate, with like my historical references and things like that. So there was that. That's what I did during COVID. We also, when there were gaps in between where we could go out, as you guys all know, and we recorded a live stream, or we did a live stream concert of our second album. We have that out as a DVD, so anyone can buy it. Just a little plug. But yeah, we recorded that because heaps of bands were doing live streams at the time, so we did that. And then we released our second album, I believe, in 2022. So at the kind of the very end of that COVID thing that was happening, and then we managed to go on tour as soon as like we could. So it was good. But yeah, it was tough, but I spent a lot of that time doing interviews and writing the next album and trying to keep content going, because the way that content was made changed as well, which then affects the whole music industry. And that's something I had to kind of like learn to like create different type of content, like a lot of behind the scenes things, a lot more personal stuff. So I kind of use that as a big learning curve as well, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Let's take a look at a few of your pages here. All of these will be in the description as well for anybody that wants to check these out. Unfortunately, we do need to stop and start for every screen. I can't just flick between them, so it's going to be a little annoying. But
StreamYard, you need to fix that.
But for starters, we're going to go. We're going to go to the Spotify here. This is primarily where you'll find their music, Victoria K. You can see I've liked a lot of their songs there. But these guys here are just absolutely amazing. What I would love to do, but we can't due to YouTube's laws and copywriting laws, even though we have the lead singer of the band here, we can't actually play your own music because they'll copyright us, I believe.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, like I'd love to play some of your clips and stuff, but I'm just not sure how that works. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work well. So let's now go to the YouTube, which is the one that I just absolutely love, because this is where it's got all the stuff we've been talking about. This has got all of her covers, all of her new music, the film clips, when she's young, and looking at this stuff too. It is.
I'm so young in some of these. Oh dear.
It is fantastic, man. Really, really fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
And the next one we're going to take a look at now is her Instagram. Oh no, we've got one more as well. I forgot. So here you go, Victoria_K_official if you'd like to follow them there. They have some great stuff here as well, where it also keeps you updated on their new gigs, and you can see other members of the band here. There is a whole world of stuff that we can scroll through here. But I guess probably one of the more important links would be your website, which is right here. So we've got that too. As you can see, these are the members of the band. The Victoria K shows that are upcoming.
I think these ones are done. We have to update that.
Oh, it is too. Yeah, May 24th. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are past shows as well.
There you go. Quarter out now. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah. And film clips and all sorts of stuff there. So I want to press play. It's killing me. All right. Anyway, I just hope you go and watch this, because we know a lot of the Aussieverse people out there are about comics and collectibles and all that sort of stuff. But as you've seen in the last few months, we have expanded out into music, predominantly metal, because Steve is our metal guru here with his 5 minutes of metal. So hopefully Victoria and many more other bands come on here. So let's continue the show here with me asking you, what is your dream venue, Victoria?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Well, I played, one of my bucket list venues was the Northcote Theatre, and I did that, which was insane. Maybe the Forum. Like in Australia, it would be the Forum.
Oh, yeah, the Forum's great.
The Forum was
Forum is amazing for concerts.
Oh yeah. Also, like, I'm gonna shoot really high here. Just arenas. I'd love to do an arena tour one day. I'd love to get to the point where I can do an arena tour. And I think if you work hard enough for anything, it can happen. So,
Yeah.
but one of, like, this isn't so much a dream venue, it's more of like a festival. I'd love to play at Varken. That's been my dream ever since I was like, yeah. It's
That would be awesome. And there's been quite a few Aussie bands have actually played there. I know a few years ago, Vanishing Point played there, and one of their tracks, I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, was actually used as the intro music for all of the advertising for Varken, which was pretty awesome.
Wow, that would be like an honor. That would be insane.
It'd be so good to go.
Yeah. Oh, so good to go. That's been my dream since I started the band, I think. Like, I want to play Varken. And when I played at Alvide, when I played with Alvide, sorry, I met the band and we hung out afterwards. And the lead singer, Kriegel, he goes to me, like, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm 14, by the way. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, what the fuck, you're 14? He's like, you're the same age as my son. And he was saying, he goes, one thing that's really stuck with me my whole life is when he said, like, he was like, so what's your dream? And I'm like, one of my dreams is to play at Varken. He goes, no, because you will play at Varken, but they've got to work out how to afford you. And then he goes, see you there. And that was like influenced my whole life. Like, one of my favorite singers on the planet being like, yeah, no, I'm going to see you there. So I hold on to that really, really closely. Yeah, and hoping that I will play there one day with, the right amount of work and the right amount of exposure. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-show rituals, pre-show traditions, anything that you have to do before you get on stage, or anything that you don't realize you do and you just do before every show?
Oh, well, I scull water. Scull it. Probably not the best. Like 24 hours before, it takes 24 hours for like your body to become hydrated. So I start drinking a lot more tea, a lot more water 24 hours before. I steam the day before if I need it, not always. I just breathe in steam. That's, yeah. And on the day, I wake up like 5 hours before I have to sing, minimum 5 hours before I have to sing. I don't sleep in. So I wake up really, really early in the morning anyway, like on show days, because I like to get my body ready. I go for like a walk. I used to run. I don't really run anymore, but I go for a walk always, like a really long one. I always get ready like 3 hours before I have to leave my house. I need to take my time. And then like we get to the venue for sound check. and I would have done a warm up in the morning already, and then I'll do a vocal, and then I'll do like a 30-minute vocal warm up during the day, and then another really short like 5-minute vocal warm up before I go on stage. But as a band, before we go on stage, one thing like a rule that we have is like we have to be just us together for at least an hour, like with no one else, just us together, just in the same room, warming up, doing the same thing. Even if we don't, we do talk, obviously, but like even if we don't like hang out, we all have to be together before we go on stage to connect our energies. And that's like a really important thing that we have. Like we have to do that for a full hour, just the band, just hanging out backstage. So that's kind of a pre-show ritual, if that makes sense.
I did see one of your
actually.
I did see one of your pre-voice workouts, sort of what you call them. Sorry, but before you went on stage on your Facebook, and it was it was.
Oh,
fantastic.
that was like junior. Yeah.
So,
I feel so bad. I'm doing my classical exercises backstage as well. Because I use both of those parts of my voice. So I have to get everything prepared. I always get scared that I'm way too loud, especially in smaller things. Because like what I'll do, I'll have my makeup already done, I'll touch up my makeup, then I'll get dressed, and then I'll do my warm-up while everyone else is warming up. But yeah, my warm-up backstage before I get on stage will usually go for like 5-10 minutes, but I would have done a really long one before I got to the venue already. Just being really warm and keeping hydrated, just all vocal health things. Yeah.
Whatever works for you, really.
It does. I've been doing it like for years, so I'm glad that it's been working.
Do you have a message for your audience / fans or future fans over there?
Yeah. Well, just thank you to everyone who has been following us so far and has been streaming our music so far. It really, it genuinely means the world to me. Like I started this project when I was so young, and it's just been it started from like literally a kid's dream, and just the fact that people are like that you guys are listening to it and streaming it. It means the absolute world. And to everyone who hasn't heard us before, hi. Victoria K. And I really hope you come along this journey with us, and I really hope to see you all at shows if you're in Melbourne or in Australia, or if we go overseas. And you should listen to our single Frozen. It's the cover, like the Madonna cover, and you should listen to it. Yeah.
Do you ever have you ever had to deal with any sort of negativity in a crowd, or a crowd that hasn't responded in the way that you've wanted them to, and you've had to pump them up or do anything like that? Have you ever gone through any of that sort of experience?
Oh, of course. I think every musician, every band gets that. It's been more so like when I was hopping on other people's shows, like sometimes I'd be chucked in the middle of the set of a thrash show with all these thrash bands around me, and it's just like, well, the crowd's not going to get into it. But I find that once we start, people just don't know, especially in those environments where our band is so different to everyone else. People just don't know what to expect. And then we come on and we do this intro thing, and it's all this ambient sounds, and everyone's like, what is that? But I find that once we get into it, it's never been a negative reaction. It's more bit of a reaction like, I don't know what to do with this. And once I interact with the crowd enough, I think it's always ended up being a really good time. So I've never had crowds not like the music, if that makes sense. I mean, not everyone's gonna like our music, but I've never had crowds react in a negative way to our music, which I'm very happy about. I've dealt with things online, but that's different. That's a whole different thing. But as for live crowds, it's more been when you're introducing yourself to a new crowd that's not going to know what to expect. It's kind of you have to find different ways to draw them in. And I think just from playing in front of so many crowds, you kind of learn how to do that. And I find that that's not really an issue for us anymore, because I kind of know how to get the crowd involved now, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Steve, have you got anything else for Victoria?
Only thing I was going to ask you, Victoria, is when is your next gig? Where can we see you next? And what's happening at the moment in that space?
Oh, there's actually some coming up, but I can't say.
Oh, I thought we were going to get an exclusive.
I can't. I've been sworn to secrecy. Okay. There's one I can say briefly. There's one on the 2nd of November. Can't say what it is, but it's on the 2nd of November.
Okay. We better check your Facebook and your website.
Yeah, I will keep everyone updated when like posters and things get announced. But everything's still like in the works right now. And I do have another one in November, which I can't say. I can't say anything about that one. So yeah, I've got 2 in November, one on the 2nd, one on another day that I can't really mention, but that one's going to be really huge. So you should come to both of those.
We announce. Yeah, we'll be there. Now, also too, at shows, what sort of merch do you normally sell at your shows?
Oh, so we sell T-shirts. I think we still sell our live DVD. I'm not sure if we're still like selling that at the merch stands, but it's on our website. We sell CDs. We give away like free stickers and free business cards and things like that. But we also, my favorite piece of merch that we have a necklace. I normally wear it, but I'm not wearing it today. It's so bad of me. But it's a black obsidian necklace, like a black obsidian stone with our logo engraved on it, with our VK logo engraved on it. So it's very cool, very goth. It's my favorite piece of merch. And that one's been selling a lot lately, which is really, really good. We need to find, we need to get some more. So we will, but yeah, that's what we sell.
I swear, it looks like we've got some stuff to
yeah. And for people watching, guys, please make sure whenever you attend gigs, buy the merch directly from the band, right? Support them, buy their CDs, buy their T-shirts, all that sort of stuff. Because we all know Spotify is great for getting it out there, but unfortunately, bands make pretty much next to nothing from it. So buy their stuff directly from them and make sure you support them, please.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right. Is there anything you guys have got before we go?
It's a bit of a general question, but do you have any future goals for the band itself? Any certain achievements that you want in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10, whatever you?
Wow. That's a really
question.
good question. That really good question. Well, short-term goal is to get out our next record through and get signed to like a larger label. That's a really, really short-term goal of mine. Another kind of semi-short-term goal, just based off of the opportunities that we've had so far, is to tour through Europe. I'd absolutely love to tour through Europe. We had 2 opportunities to tour through Europe in the past. One of them COVID hit, and the other one the band ended up pulling out that we were going to tour with. No. So yeah, that was pretty not cute, but it happens. But that's a really more of a kind of mid-term, short-term goal is to tour through Europe. Long-term goal is to like do my own like larger tour. Even through Australia, like play shows at the Forum and Northcote Theatre, the Metro, like to make those our own shows as a band. That would be a more of a kind of long-term-ish goal, just depending on how our music picks up, I guess.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much, Victoria. We know, I can't imagine what it's like being in a band and getting some random YouTube channel turning around and saying, hey, would you mind coming on the show and being interviewed? It might be a little, I don't know these guys. So I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on here and taking that chance. It's really nice of you. We've loved having you on. We will definitely be coming and seeing your shows because you're a local, so it's going to be very easy to. We love your music. It's absolutely fantastic. I implore everybody that is watching this to go check out Victoria K. If you are anywhere around the world, you follow this channel for the comics, but a little bit of the music, please go check them out because it is absolutely fantastic stuff. Victoria, let's chuck a couple more of these links before we go here. Victoria Music Official. You can also check them out at Instagram. Also check them out on YouTube as well as Spotify, which you can, check anybody out there now. So yeah, thank you very much for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on again. It was a really, really fun interview, and like I really appreciate you guys reaching out. And yeah, just like taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it. Really, really do. And I will be checking out more of your YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm a whole band.
we won't hold you to that. The music, maybe, if that's your thing. I don't know. Do you collect comics at all? Are you into pop culture?
I love pop culture. I love it. So is my drama. So I will be showing everybody. Yes.
Oh, good on you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We didn't even ask you to do that, so that's just fantastic. All right. If we do, we do ask everybody this before we go, though. So I guess it'd be a disservice if we didn't ask you. If we had to turn around to you and say, what is Aussieverse? What would your answer be?
Whoa, that's a really large question.
Give you a little clue here.
Oh.
She did that.
Aussieverse for life.
Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria K. She got the answer right. Okay, we had to give her a little bit of a clue, but she got there. Thank you so much. We hope to have her on back one day again. To the rest of the band that are watching this, thank you for lending her tonight. It has been fantastic. We hope to be there again. We will catch you next time. And as always, Aussieverse is for life.